Howard, A, do you agree with what Steve is saying, and B, how do you play it?
I view it as a form of QE light. I don't think it's really QE because unless they're buying coupon-bearing debt and bringing down yields, longer yields, I don't think it's going to have any real impact
QE
on the
skinny
markets.
QE. You had to say QE light. You couldn't say skinny QE.
No, I have to say something different
Howard,
than you,
we've had a number of guests come on the show in the past. We've had a number of guests come on the show in the past week who have suggested that effectively, not that they're getting out of the market entirely, but that they are truly lightening up. What are you doing?
Very defensive. I mean, it's unusual for me to be very defensive, but I'm more defensive than I've been in a number of years because the data is lining up in a negative way. We're looking at now earnings estimate revisions have gone from plus 10% going into the year to 2%. They may be negative.
Does that mean staying in the market but moving to defensive-oriented stocks, or does that mean something else?
Defensive-oriented stocks plus cash. If you have cash,
you're waiting for some kind of moment.
I think you'll have a better opportunity over the next 3 to 6 months to deploy cash. The stocks that you have, I think you should be defensive. Would I take capital gains with the idea of getting back in at a lower level? No, I wouldn't do that. I think we're going to have an upturn at some point next year, but I think we have some rough sledding ahead. We're entering a phase for the market. Wait a minute. Hold on. We're entering a phase for the market where we are likely to see contracting earnings and contracting multiples. This is the most dangerous phase for the market. It's when most of the losses occur in stocks, and we're on the precipice of that happening.
I got to get to Jim Euro, but I'm just trying to understand what you said. There would be an upward trend sometime next year.
Probably in late spring of next year. I think you're going to see
in an election season ahead. You think that there will be a upturn? That's
a very good point. If we get to that level, if we get to March, April, May, and the economy is doing better, and the PMIs are rising, not falling, and we focus on the election, and Elizabeth Warren is the leading candidate, frankly, she's probably a lovely person, but I think her recipe for the economy and for regulation would be very bad for the stock market.
And sends it where? Jim Urio, you've been very patient. What are you hearing where you sit and in your reaction to what Howard's saying?
Well, I think there's one element that's being forgotten here is that if we do see PEs contract and multiples contract, and we are going to see the Fed respond to that. We already have basically free money around the world. If we're throwing our hat in the ring from our central bank as well, then you got to ask yourself, where is money going to go if not the U.S. stock market? I think that the Fed could save it as it's done in the past. This China thing has been fascinating. We haven't really talked about it at all. But if you thought, like I thought, that we were going to become numb to these headlines, clearly we're not. The VIX is running at about, almost 18% over the last year. Over the last 5 years, it's been 15%. To me, that means that people aren't complacent. To me, that's a positive for the stock market, not a negative.
I just wonder, though, Dave Bianco was talking about this in the last hour. Is it right for the Fed to cut rates and spur...
David Bianco?
Yeah.
I thought you said Jim Bianco.
No, not Jim. It was David last night.
It was David.
Yeah, David. Spur investors to take more risk into what is really a riskier time. I'm not sure that makes sense. So they're going to push you out the spectrum by reducing rates, and they're really pushing you into the problem that's coming ahead.
Right. Yep. Gentlemen,
mini E.
Well, they'll tell you they're trying to reduce the risk themselves.
That's true. Would you spell skinny with a Q, Joe?
Mini E.
Skinny, SQINNY.
That would work for you if you want to do it.
I'm just trying to come up with a...
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its symbols when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Fly from London Heathrow to Shannon from $55.99 each way as part of a return trip with Aer Lingus and experience something new on your next trip to Ireland. Discover the soaring cliffs and stunning scenery of the wild Atlantic Way. Explore the charming local towns and relax by the fireside with some traditional music and fresh seafood. Smart enjoys a short break in Ireland. Smart flies, Aer Lingus. Book now at aerlingus.com. Offers subject to conditions and availability.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and be unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
When it comes to keeping your small business valuable information safe, Dell Small Business Technology Advisors can recommend tailored security solutions, like computers with Intel Core processors, servers, storage, networking, plus industry-leading monitors and software. Running your own small business is a big challenge, but with the right partner, it's a lot easier. To speak with an advisor today, call 0800 085 4878. That's 0800 085 4878.
Carl's All Change Casserole.
So, Chloe walks in from school, tears all over her face.
Daddy,
She says,
I don't want to eat animals anymore.
I blooming love my meat, but not as much as I love my little girl. That's why we've made some changes to our old favourite, sausage casserole. Now with meat-free Cumberlands, but still with my magic touch, a dollop of mango chutney. Just as tasty as it used to be.
Better, actually.
Make your own with the new Tesco Plant Chef range, Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco.
Welcome back, everybody. Facebook making headlines this week after rejecting a Biden campaign request to remove a Trump campaign ad targeting Joe Biden. Facebook said that the video did not violate company policies. Joining us right now to talk about Facebook's role in all of this is Leah Goodman, former FEC commissioner and a partner at Wiley Ryan. Also, Sarah Fisher, Axios media reporter, and thank you both for being here. Lee, what do you think? Does this invite additional scrutiny from regulators?
No, I think that Facebook, like all publishers, has to have reasonable editorial policies in place. And I think what we're seeing here is an exercise of their editorial freedom to feature candidate ads without fact-checking and allow the political process to be the arbiter of truth and falsity in political advertising by the candidates themselves.
Sarah, that sounds like a personal, a completely respectable expectation. That's certainly what we've seen in the past. But I would almost argue that everything is becoming more politicized, and you're seeing everybody forced to choose sides, much like the NBA is when it's squeezed between China and the United States. It's a heightened political environment. What are you seeing?
I definitely think it's a heightened political environment, and especially for Facebook, which is facing so much scrutiny on Capitol Hill, not just over this issue, but over a lot of issues. At the end of the day, this isn't a new thing. There have been media companies that have accepted ads with false content or misinformation for decades. I think what's new here is that people look at Facebook, they think it's huge, and they're worried that if it allows misinformation through ads on its platform, it's going to completely twist our political system. I think that people are focusing a little bit too much on Facebook's exact role. In reality, tons of networks are accepting this ad and have accepted other ads with misinformation before. But in a hyper-political environment, Facebook's just getting the brunt of this.
Lee, maybe I should put it that way. You think that this makes it more likely that politicians go after Facebook, not regulators who might follow the rule of law, but politicians tend to follow where the public wants them to go.
Well, Facebook is condemned whether they do or whether they don't.
Yeah.
And, they don't want to be the arbiter, and they don't want to take sides in these political debates. And their stated policy, I think, is fair. When it is candidates' direct speech, whether it's free posts on their web pages on Facebook or whether it's paid advertising, they are going to allow the people and the other politicians and the press, just like we're discussing it here, they're going to let the political process be the arbiter of truth and falsity, especially where the speech is direct speech by a candidate to the American people.
But Lee, what do you make of TV networks, newspapers, other forms of media outside of the Facebook world who oftentimes look at ads, see if they're accurate or inaccurate, and say, we are or aren't publishing these things?
Well, there is a legal overlay to those editorial decisions by the across media. For example, broadcast media cannot censor candidate speech under the Communications Act. They must carry and they must disseminate an advertisement by a candidate, and they are afforded liability protection, particularly for defamation, when they do. Cablecasters, such as CNBC, they have editorial rights over the ads that they run, and they also do not have the legal protection against defamation, so they have a little more proactive approach to regulating what they disseminate in paid ads and do not. On the internet, it is different. The internet, Facebook has editorial control over what it posts and doesn't post, both free post as well as paid ads, and they have immunity protection under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. So the editorial decisions are drawn not only by the editorial choices of the various media platforms, but the legal liability.
Do you have a problem? You know, last year, I don't know if you recall, CNN and Fox, in a almost bipartisan approach, removed a commercial that President Trump's political team had put together, portraying immigrants as a violent threat. Was that you agree with that decision? Disagree with that decision?
What I agree with is that all of those media you just mentioned, they are cable programmers. They have editorial standards, and they are allowed to apply those editorial standards to the ads that they run, unlike broadcast. Facebook, however, just in the area of candidate advertisements and solely candidate advertisements, they are taking a hands-off approach, and they say we aren't going to referee truth or falsity, opinion versus fact, candidate versus candidate debates.
Lee, Sarah, I want to thank you both for joining us. I get the feeling we'll have you both back soon to talk more about it.
Thank you.
When we return, much more on the markets and the China trade talks. We'll be right back.
In the next hour of Squawk Box, a roundup of what investors should take away from the China trade talks, plus the GM strike, day 25. Will a deal be reached before suppliers feel the pinch? That, plus your latest corporate headlines, when Squawk Box returns.
Right now, the future is being written by people like you. Creative thinkers, tech lovers, problem solvers. Are you going to stand by and watch? Well, show the world what you've got. Join others around the UK on an EY degree apprenticeship in digital and technology. And earn a salary working with exciting businesses while studying towards the degree. Don't let the future pass you by. Get involved. For more information and to apply, search EY Digital Apprentice.
Time is money. Or so money says. Well, money. I know you like to dictate every hour of every day, add to my to-do list and throw the odd spanner in the works. But not anymore. This is my business, and I run it on my watch. I'm in control now, money. And times are changing. Save time with instant business invoicing, now on the Barclays app. Search Barclays Business and make money work for you.
Must have a Barclays business account. T's and C's apply. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Find out what you need to do to prepare at gov.uk/Brexit.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
The Peugeot Professional Van range is the beating heart of businesses across the UK. Whether you're on the road with only your DAB radio for company or navigating tight spots with rear parking sensors, all Peugeot Professional vans give your business that edge. Visit your local Peugeot dealership during our October van event from the 10th to the 31st of October and drive away with an exclusive finance offer. Master the impossible. Peugeot Motor Company PLC is acting as a credit broker, not a lender. Finance subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Business users and over 18s only. Guarantee may be required. PSA Finance UK Limited.
The B&Q 3 for 2 offer is now on, including an unmissable 3 for 2 on tiles and flooring, like real wood and laminate. So hurry to B&Q. You can do it when you're 3 for 2 it. Excludes cut-to-measure flooring, flooring accessories and underlay. Every third item per single transaction in descending price order free. Offer ends November 3rd. See DIY.com.
To succeed in small business, you need technology that runs efficiently. When you partner with a Dell Small Business Technology Advisor, you get advice, one-on-one partnership, and tailored product connectivity solutions, including computers with Intel Core processors, servers, storage, networking, plus industry-leading monitors and accessories. It's how they help your small business make the most of every minute. To speak with an advisor today, call 0800 085 4878. That's 0800 085 4878.
Trade keeping markets on edge. Volatility in the futures as U.S. and Chinese negotiators get set to meet in Washington.
Apple getting caught up in the unrest in Hong Kong, the company deciding to pull an app used by protesters.
And inside a global ride-sharing giant. No, it's not Uber or Lyft, but it books more rides than both. The final hour of Squawk Box begins right now.
Live from the most powerful city in the world, New York, this is Squawk Box.
Good morning and welcome back to Squawk Box here on CNBC, live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Joe Kernan, along with Becky Quick and Andrew Ross. Working the futures right now, down 56 this morning. It's been kind of a wide range in the last 12 hours or so in the pre-market session. Down much more than that. It was positive at one point. Now down 53, everything keying off of any comments or overtures coming out of China or trade negotiators here as they start again today. It's October 10th, believe it or not. Remember when that seemed so far away? Oh, October 10th. But here it is, October 10th. S&P down 4.5, NASDAQ indicated down 12. Treasuries been in a pretty tight range recently. I think we're in the mid to high now, 1.5, almost 1.6 on the 10-year.
Let's get you caught up on some of the stories that investors are going to be talking about today. Apple has removed an app from its app store that's been used by some of the Hong Kong protesters. Demonstrators have used this app called HKMap.live to track movements by local police, at least according to the Hong Kong government. Apple said that the app, which the company rejected earlier this month, was approved just last week. They say it violated its rules because it was used to ambush authorities. The official newspaper of the Communist Party in China blasted what it called Apple's complicity in the Hong Kong protests. Third quarter results out from Delta Airlines this morning. The company beat estimates for adjusted quarterly profit. Revenue was a little below what the street was looking for, but Delta's bottom line was helped by strong demand growth, which prompted it to hire more pilots, flight attendants, and airport workers. Of course, Delta doesn't have any of those 737 MAX airlines, so it was able to poach from its competitors who did have those airlines that were sidelined. It used a lot of pilots and overtime that added to their costs, but they think it's going to be...
They get double time.
They get double time for it, which is why they're hiring more pilots now. They think
and why costs are suddenly an issue. And there are pilots that were sitting around at a lot of other airlines, and at Delta,
like the Southwest pilots who are now suing Boeing, saying that they didn't make the overtime pay they were anticipating. Delta Airlines shares right now down by about 3.5%. Also, check out shares of Bed Bath & Beyond. The housewares retailer named Target's former chief merchandising officer, Mark Tritton, as its new CEO, succeeding interim CEO Mary Winston. Tritton's appointment is effective November 4th, and that stock is up by 23%. Steve Leisman is back. He's got some breaking news this morning. Steve, what are you seeing?
Dallas Federal Reserve President Robert Kaplan out with an essay this morning where he says the Fed made rates inappropriately too tight last year. He's behind the last two rate cuts the Fed did, but it wants to take a little time now to wait. He says he's concerned that he says it's appropriate before the July and September meetings to have lowered rates. Concerned recent weakness could spread. He's a little bit concerned about the consumer here. Says if we wait till the data or the weakness shows up in the consumer, it's too late. But he wants to reserve judgment on the need for future rate cuts. Kaplan is not a voter this year. It looks like he's a voter next year, from what I could tell. And just FYI, I will be interviewing Minneapolis Fed President Neil Kashkari tomorrow morning at the Council on Foreign Relations.
Who is voting this year, right?
I believe so.
He's either this year or next year. He's a voting member.
I have Neil voting next year. He's an alternate member this year. Same with Kaplan.
I mean, seeing Fed bank presidents putting out statements like this, I mean, it's a little interesting, the jockeying before they have their next meeting. Everybody trying to get out there where they're coming before they get into the room.
I actually thought Powell was a little more circumspect about the need for rate cuts than the market seemed to think it was. And I always have concern about leaning too much against where the market's priced.
Is this messaging meant for the markets?
To say, it's not as much of a done deal. Yeah. And by the way, they debated yesterday, according to and while I'm looking up the probabilities for It's not as much a done deal. They debated whether or not to send a message to the markets not to price in so much in the way of rate cuts in the future. Okay, I have the possibility or the probability of a rate cut month at 82%, but the debate's been about next month, or sorry, the next meeting, December, where it's just 47%. That had been above, then it went below, and it's been even lower than 47, but that's where we are now. We're banking on the October cut, debating December.
Steve, thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay. Top trade negotiators from China and the U.S. getting ready to sit down in Washington. It is the first time they'll be meeting in more than 2 months, but there has been already questions about how far these conversations will go. And Kayla Tauscher joins us this morning with more as the market tries to bet on that very question. Kayla.
Andrew, you can see the media crush starting to form behind me. Chinese state media, U.S. media from a variety of outlets awaiting the arrival of the Chinese vice premier here at the office of the U.S. Trade Representative, where these talks have taken place at a high level on and off for the better part of the last 2 years. This one appears to be crunch time. You have had a flurry of media reports all throughout the week in the wake of some very hawkish moves by the Trump administration to introduce a Chinese business blacklist for certain tech companies, also banning visas for certain Chinese officials tied to human rights violations in northwest China. All of that seems to frustrate the vice premier. Chinese officials now telling certain Chinese outlets that they will cut their visit short. They will wrap up talks today at the end of the day. That's a day earlier than planned. And it was something that caught the White House unaware last night when these reports first broke. A White House spokesperson on the record said there had been no change in the schedule, and a senior administration official telling me that there was still a dinner planned with the delegation for this evening and that Vice Premier Liu He was expected to leave tomorrow. I'm told now by a principal that the situation is fluid, that talks are open-ended, that it's an open question as to whether tomorrow will still be a part of the trade negotiations, whether the delegation will split, whether the vice premier will in fact leave early. That's an important point to Chinese officials who view some of that diplomatic format as very important signaling as to their frustration, how serious they are, and whether progress is in fact being made. We'll be here, we'll be monitoring it for you, but as to where the president stands, who is the final decision maker here and has been unpredictable throughout this situation, senior administration official tells me last night he has not made up his mind. Andrew?
Okay. Kayla, thank you so very much for that report. We're going to continue this conversation. Let's talk more about what's at stake in those latest trade talks. Joining us right now, Joe, what?
No, nothing.
Go.
Daniel Rosen, Rhodium Group founding partner, and Nicole Lamb-Hale, former Assistant Secretary of Commerce. She's now Managing Director at Kroll and Duff & Phelps Institute fellow. Nicole, do you have friends still back there? I mean, do you know any? Do you know anything we don't know about what's actually going on behind the scenes with the talks right now? Can you tell us?
Well, I wish I could. I wish I could give you some certainty there. I mean, there's a lot at stake this week. Our clients at Kroll and Duff & Phelps are looking at this very closely because, quite frankly, both sides are suffering now. We're seeing a slowdown in the U.S. in terms of manufacturing activity, so it's extended beyond agriculture. In China, as supply chains begin to shift to third countries, they're beginning to feel some pain. So, there's a lot at stake here.
Is it, for lack of a better term, we're looking for a skinny deal now, something that sort of, at best, I guess, moves it to a year or two from now where we don't solve all the IP and all the really contentious issues, but we get something on paper, we delay any additional tariffs, and we get some ag buys. Is there hope for that, Nicole?
Well, I think a skinny deal is probably hopeful. It disappoints me, though, because at the end of the day, the structural changes in terms of IP protection and making sure that subsidies are not given to state-owned enterprises to level the playing field. I mean, those are the big-ticket items, and a skinny deal just kicks these issues down the road. And I have to tell you, I'm very encouraged. One ray of hope. Kroll recently issued its global fraud and risk report, where we found that 94% of Chinese executives that were surveyed with Chinese companies believe that IP protection is something that's critical. And so that gives me some hope that maybe the Chinese government will accelerate its efforts to improve IP protection, which is a structural issue that we need to really focus on.
Dan, I don't know if you're going to make us feel any better about a fat deal. It's going to be, is it a skinny deal? It's the best we can hope for?
It's metaphor day here, I see.
Skinny bundles.
And that's fine. We've been using small deal metaphors like that all year as well, since last December, actually, that the best at a 90-day, remember, was going to all happen in 90 days? That was impossible. It was ridiculous. The best you could hope for was a responsible small deal. It's time to be honest now. We're talking about fake deal or lipstick on a pig deal. Because we're talking about little concessions right now that would get us halfway back to where we would have been had we not started this whole thing. That's not to say that we shouldn't be contesting, challenging where China's going, what's happening in its system. Take the NBA situation, for example. To go ahead and get ahead of the question you're going to ask anyway. You can't ask a CEO to be both the public affairs officer and the chief executive looking after the balance sheet of a company. That's serving two masters, and it just doesn't work. So there's huge costs to where this whole thing is going. We've been pretending that...
Business Roundtable thinks it works.
Well, they're doing what they have to do in the moment, and I get that. But let's, I have the opportunity, the luxury of kind of calling it a little truer. This doesn't work. This is not going in a good place. There's no happy outcome.
We already. Well, that's depressing. So, Nicole, it sounds like you were in the Obama administration, and what I usually hear from Democrats, they sort of want to take on China, but they want to do it with our allies, and they don't want to do it through tariffs. Are you in favor of the tack that's been used so far to try to bring China to the table, or should we have done it some other way? It sounds like you think IP is a problem, and some of the other the way they subsidize their state-owned or their state industries, those are all problems, right? You would have done this?
Well, I have to tell you, the critical mistake that was made by the Trump administration was pulling out of TPP. Tariffs don't work. Economists have said that for years. Now we're in a case study. We're living in a case study of how tariffs don't work. I think that being involved in a multilateral effort like TPP that would bring our allies together and really force China's hand would have been the way to go.
Yeah, Hillary wasn't going to do it either, and neither was the President Obama tried to do it and didn't have the Democrats. He had more Republicans on the side for TPP than Democrats. So I know that what you're saying that Trump ended it, but that didn't have a chance anywhere.
Well, I think it could have, and I think that it's something that we should begin to look at again. That's a longer-term play at this point. And I also have to say that I think that we need to be more culturally sensitive as well in our negotiations. It's very disappointing that the vice premier may be leaving early. Some of the negotiation tactics I think we need to be careful about because there is a cultural sensitivity.
Nicole, when you say the tactics, are you suggesting that we placate the Chinese?
No, I'm not at all. What I'm suggesting is that certainly announcing efforts that really box China in before we even come to the table again aren't the right way to go. And that's what happened today.
Real quick before we go, how do you think that U.S. companies should deal with China? I mean, and clearly the NBA is a clear example of where this all meets in the middle.
Sure. I think that U.S. companies should remain true to their values. I think that it's not a winning game to compromise your values.
You mean money takes precedence over everything, Nicole? That's basically
what... I wouldn't say that money's a value.
That's the bottom line. I mean, that's what we're seeing with we blame the NBA, but then we went back and said, find a corporation that hasn't sort of appeased China because of $1.4 billion.
Well, I think that these are tricky issues, and you can't you can't solve them by tweet. You really need to sit down and have discussions and try to come to a conclusion.
I don't know. I think this is bipartisan.
But I also think these are the type of things that government should be sitting down and discussing and not leaving it up to the corporations to have to decide on a case-by-case basis.
That's 100%
You can't go up against a state.
That's
this is what exactly they should be discussing these.
Yeah, I mean, important point, right? Is this a U.S. to China negotiation, or is this multiple U.S.s and multiple Chinas? The big things that happened this week, putting these companies on the entities list, choosing to make human rights part of the conversation, that didn't even come out of the Oval Office. That came out of somewhere else.
Okay. All right.
That's an interesting point, too. Okay.
Well, thanks, Daniel Rosen. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
When we come back, we'll take an inside look at the world's second largest venture-backed company, Chinese ride-sharing giant Didi. It may book more rides than Uber and Lyft, but it's not without its own problems. Plus, in a year of some big-name IPO disappointments, we're going to talk to the CEO of one of the standouts on what she and her company did right. Stay tuned. You're watching Squawk Box on CNBC.
Can we get...
At Argos, save up to 25% off furniture across thousands of lines. Our autumn-winter home and furniture collection is here. So stylish, you can wear it. With Argos, you're good to go. Offer ends the 22nd of October. Offer excludes nursery, bathroom and garden furniture. Conditions apply, subject to availability selected lines.
Hearing is an underrated miracle. Intimate whispers, the lushness of symphonies, the soothing patter of rain on leaves. If you had that taken away from you, it would be a massive loss for most of us. Almost all of us go every day without really stopping to think about just how important it is to us.
Audible presents The Body, a guide for occupants, written and read by Bill Bryson, including original bonus material exclusively available at Audible. Listen free as part of your 30-day trial, $7.99 a month after 30 days. Renews automatically.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
The Peugeot Professional Van range is the beating heart of businesses across the UK. Whether you're on the road with only your DAB radio for company or navigating tight spots with rear parking sensors, all Peugeot Professional Vans give your business that edge. Visit your local Peugeot dealership during our October van event from the 10th to the 31st of October and drive away with an exclusive finance offer. Master the impossible. Peugeot Motor Company PLC is acting as a credit broker, not a lender. Finance subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Business users and over 18s only. Guarantee may be required. PSA Finance UK Limited.
Carl's All Change Casserole.
So, Chloe walks in from school. Tears all over her face.
Daddy,
She says,
I don't want to eat animals anymore.
I blooming love my meat. But not as much as I love my little girl. That's why we've made some changes to our old favourite, sausage casserole. Now with meat-free Cumberlands, but still with my magic touch. A dollop of mango chutney. Just as tasty as it used to be.
Better, actually.
Make your own with the new Tesco Plant Chef range, Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco.
The nights have started to draw in. And at DFS, we know that can only mean one thing. Everyone will want to spend more time at home, getting nice and cozy. Ah, you can't beat it. That's why all our sofas are handmade to order, and many are guaranteed to be delivered in time for Christmas. So you can look forward to cozying up this winter, knowing your new sofa won't let you down. DFS.
Welcome back, everybody. All this week, we are taking an inside look at the world's most valuable venture-backed private companies. Deirdre Bosa joins us right now. She's got a heavyweight in the ride-sharing industry. And no, we're not talking about Uber or Lyft. Deirdre, good to see you.
Becky, we're talking Didi Chuxing, that is China's ride-sharing giant and the second most valuable VC-backed company based on its last round of funding in 2017. Now, this is an important distinction because that was before the implosion of WeWork's IPO and before Uber's haircut in public markets. Reports suggest that Didi is being priced in the secondary market far below that $56 billion valuation. Now, Didi is another major SoftBank investment, and so potentially another black eye for Masa Son's recent record as he's raising money for Vision Fund 2. Like Uber, SoftBank was a late-stage investor, putting money in at that $56 billion valuation. Valuation aside, though, Didi is a ride-sharing monster that makes our own American platforms look tiny in comparison. Last year's average daily rides were twice that of Uber's, 15 times that of Lyft's. While Uber has been getting out of unprofitable businesses overseas, its overseas markets, Didi has been doubling down. Remember, it defeated Uber in China. It has poured billions of dollars into Uber's rival in Southeast Asia. And now it is battling the American ride-sharing giant in one of its most important markets. That would be South America. Now, like our ride-sharing players, though, Didi is bleeding money and facing many regulatory challenges. According to reports, it had been operating at a loss for 6 straight years and paid out $1.7 billion in subsidies and discounts to passengers and drivers in the first half of 2018 alone. Guys, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Deirdre. One standout in the 2019 IPO class has been Turning Point Therapeutics. Its stock is up 23% since it first traded back in April. Joining us right now to talk more about her business pre- and post-IPO is Dr. Athena Katriadis, CEO of Turning Point Therapeutics. How did I do?
Pretty good.
Almost?
Athena was accurate, so that's fine.
Contour. It's
the
Contoriotis.
The Contoriotis. Yeah.
Contoriotis.
Yes, but
Otis
again,
or
but
Otis?
with all
Okay.
credit, your last name is much easier than mine.
Let me ask you this, because we started this segment or came into this segment talking about sort of the IPO class, this vintage. What do you think is going on right now in terms of how the market is looking at all of these companies? And I know that they're not one monolith, and clearly you're a standout relative to what we've seen.
Well, I think part of the reason that we've outperformed all the other biotech IPOs of the year, and I think just across almost all IPOs outside of also biotech, is that we've delivered on the promises that we made. I mean, we've did a lot of marketing before launching our IPO. We had a very strong scientific platform. We have more than one molecule. We've now advanced essentially almost our third into the clinic since the IPO. We've had consistent improvement in our clinical data for our lead asset. And having that clinical data really was the premise for us in terms of building on the foundation of our science. And being able to support that, yes, we had strong science, but being able to show when we've translated that into the clinic.
I want to ask about this, by the way.
This is one of the key
You are
pieces.
our biotech expert here.
So it is interesting. So these are tyrosine kinase inhibitors, correct? You've got a small molecule, that is less likely to be mutated around by lung cancer. Is that?
So what we've done is, as you know very well, targeted oncology is a precedent that precedes us. But what we took is that our scientific founder is a chemist by training, and she decided to design an entire platform of smaller molecules that are essentially little circles called macrocycles.
No steric interference.
That's exactly right, Joe. So less steric interference with the ATP binding pocket within the kinase.
And it binds very tightly.
Wait, which means what? For
It means the cancer can't mutate around.
It catches it.
That's
and
right.
this really works. Tyrosine kinase inhibitors actually work.
Tyrosine kinase inhibitors is a $20 billion market within oncology alone. I mean,
So
Gleevec
exciting,
really was the paradigm in 2001 to start this market
But
off.
cancer mutates around it, and you get these big molecules, and it's easier with
correct.
big molecules to mutate around it. So this is a very tight binding.
That's the scientific rationale I was saying. I mean, the story resonated to investors because we were going after treatment resistance, right? And so we were going after a patient population. They've already been treated with a TKI. Unfortunately, their tumor has continued to progress.
There's a big unmet need for that.
And now there's nothing approved.
How long were you a private company before you went public?
So we were about 5 years private, and I did watch your segment this morning. We had raised much less capital than the commentary this
But
morning.
you've done a secondary as well.
We have done a secondary, and as you guys know better than anyone, being able to do a secondary that's larger than your IPO within your IPO lockup window is really unparalleled. And I mean, I think that's, again, a testament to the investors we brought into the IPO that believed in us again.
Right.
We did that just a month ago at over 100% premium to the IPO
How much of
price.
this, though, I mean, in this sort of larger conversation that's being had about investors, see, I think there's a difference here, and this is why I think this is succeeding. A, not only are you nailing the numbers, but B, because you were only for 5 years and you hadn't taken crazy amounts of money prior, right? I mean, don't you think that's a huge part of this?
I do. I think that we had very strong investors previously when we were a private company, and in today's environment, if we needed them to do a 100% insider participated IPO, they would have done it. We didn't need that. We had enough with the story that was resonating.
Go,
instead of
science professor.
all these business
questions, you go for the science.
Did your chemists start with the bigger molecules and find the most important part of the? They didn't design it from scratch.
No, so Jean is our chief scientific officer. She was the founder of the company.
And how did she do it?
She had developed 2 prior tyrosine kinase inhibitors that are incredibly successful.
From bigger molecules.
Yes, that are
So the
bigger
most
and that are not
important-
necessarily smaller circles. Also, they weren't closed loops. So she had a history of doing this successfully twice prior to founding Turning
I just
Point.
can't imagine doing that chemical.
There was that side of the story, and then my side of the story was also that I have been a part of 4 tyrosine kinase inhibitors that have been brought to market. And so the balance of our team, I think, again, resonated to the street when we were out marketing the offering, earlier this year, right after the government shut down.
So are we increasingly moving towards where chemists are going to be designing some of these drugs rather than molecular biologists?
What I think you saw was a wave of immuno-oncology coming into favor.
That's all molecular biology.
Clearly. In addition, obviously, everything that's happening outside of oncology and gene therapy, we're kind of going back into that wave. I saw a fun fact the other day. If your portfolio was exclusively within precision oncology, which predominantly would be TKIs, you would be up 200% since 2015.
Because it works.
Exactly.
Athena, can you use this beyond lung cancer? I mean,
absolutely. And so the way that our pipeline was built is specifically looking at oncogenic driver mutations, and that could be relevant for lung, colon, other smaller indications within breast, because these are subpopulations of larger tumor types. You probably all know the Loxo Oncology story very well. Incredibly successful company. They went after TREC, which is a different target than ROS1, which is what we focused on predominantly. But TREC is also just, in general, solid tumors.
Thank you.
We haven't made nearly as much progress with solid in the last.
A business conversation and a science
You just kept bringing it back. Well, what about the money from me? I mean, come on.
Forget about the money. We should be caring about our health. That's what this is about.
Thank you. There are bigger issues than money.
Thank you very much.
There's the NBA doesn't realize. Coming up, the widening fallout from the nearly month-long worker strike at GM. We're going to hear from a top industry watcher on the ripple effects now hitting other businesses and what they stand to lose the longer the two sides can't come together. Stay tuned. You're watching Squawk Box on CNBC.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Carl's All Change Casserole.
So, Chloe walks in from school, tears all over her face.
Daddy,
She says,
I don't want to eat animals anymore.
I blooming love my meat, but not as much as I love my little girl. That's why we've made some changes to our old favourite, sausage casserole. Now with meat-free Cumberlands, but still with my magic touch, a dollop of mango chutney. Just as tasty as it used to be.
Better, actually.
Make your own with the new Tesco Plant Chef range, Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco.
You're 169 in the queue.
I proposed on the 169. She got off for the next stop.
You're my 169th greatest lover.
The number 169 never screamed going places until now. Get the Toyota Aygo X-Play for only £169 deposit, then £169 a month with 0% APR representative. Just go. Aygo.
0% APR representative on new sales of Aygo X-Play over 48 months. £169 per month. Customer deposit of £169 when proposed and approved via Access Toyota by 31st of October 2019. £3,487 and 50p optional final payment. Subject to status to over 18s. Indemnities may be required. Conditions apply. Toyota Financial Services.
It's going to be mild today, but with the worst of winter yet to reach London, you don't want to come home to a broken boiler. We're with you. So that's why with British Gas Home Care, we've got your boiler covered 365 days a year. We have thousands of engineers on hand to help get your boiler up and running again, and all from just 46p a day. Buy selected home care products online by the 28th of October and get 1 month free. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply. Prices vary by postcode.
Coming up when we return, breaking inflation data. We'll bring it to you. The latest read on consumer prices out in just minutes. We'll bring you those numbers, instant analysis, all of it when Squawk returns in a moment.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to discover what's happening in the app and around the world. Be the first to know about upcoming games and the hottest new music. Follow @TuneIn and always be in the know.
MLB is right here on TuneIn.
A swing and a drive to right field. That's it. Well, Ramirez back, and that ball's gone.
And to find it all, you need to search MLB on TuneIn.
By the wall, out of here.
Home and away calls are a click away on TuneIn Premium.
Start hearing more of what you want.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations,
Live commercial-free news from MSNBC,
and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game.
Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
TuneIn puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long. With college football on TuneIn, hear the home and away call for more than 140 schools live, regular season matchups and rivalry games, conference championships and bowl games, the college football playoff.
Throw it. He's got it in stiff arm. End zone. Touchdown.
You can listen to it all for free at home, on campus, or on the road. Hear the excitement and pageantry of college football all season long, free on TuneIn.
Want to know what's happening in right now? The latest headlines are just a tap away with Fox News Talk on TuneIn. When news breaks, get up-to-the-minute coverage on developing stories from around the world. Plus, hear all the Fox shows you watch on your TV. Listen to Fox News Talk around the clock on TuneIn.
It's Liz Hernandez with your TuneIn Music News Update. Female first as Jay-Z and Beyonce are working on a new song together. A source tells The Sun that they recently shot a music video for their new track. It's one of her most extravagant and expensive shoots. It was mostly filmed in LA and has a highly choreographed routine and also a steamy romantic scene. She's working with some new creatives and is ready to change things up. To hear music from Beyonce, search today's hits on TuneIn.
You're listening to TuneIn, where you can hear all the audio you love in one place. Live NFL games, the hottest music, breaking news, and podcasts. Push play and go about your day, only on TuneIn.
Really believe in?
All right, welcome back to Squawk Box, everyone. We're just a few seconds away from the weekly jobless claims and September's CPI numbers. Futures ahead of all of this. Dow right now down by about 60 points. S&P off by 6. Let's get to Rick Santelli. He's standing by in Chicago.
Yes, let's see if it's as cool as PPI. No, it is not, but still moderate, unchanged on September headline consumer price index. We're expecting a 10th higher. And if you strip out the all-important food and energy, it's also a bit inflation light, up 1/10, half of expectations. The rearview mirror is unchanged, no revisions, up 1/10 and up 3/10 respectively. Let's go through some year over year. Up 1.7, that's about right, maybe a little cooler. 2.4 on core year over year, and that is a number that continues to be very solid above the 2% level. And if we look at real average weekly earnings for September, they were up 0.9 versus our last look, up 1.1. And if we look at hourly earnings year over year, up 1.2. Definitely a bit light. Rear view mirror up 1.4. Jobless claims, you've been waiting patiently. We moved from 220 to 210,000, and even 10,000 shaved off. Last week originally reported 219, now stands at 220, and continuing claims moved from 1.655 million to 1.684, so a smidge higher. The aftermath, we're sitting at levels in interest rates that were considered the highs yesterday on the long end.